A single dad came home early and found a billionaire in his bed. What she said shocked him. He froze at the bedroom door because the man lying in his bed wasn't just a stranger. He was someone the entire world knew. For a moment, the air left his lungs. His fingers tightened around the handle, his heart pounding so violently it felt like it might break through his chest. His mind struggled to make sense of what his eyes were seeing. A billionaire, calm and composed, sitting on the edge of his worn-out bed, in his tiny, half-broken apartment. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of unexpected moments, take a second right now to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Because stories like this remind us that life can change when we least expect it. Armin had never come home early, not in years. Life had trained him not to. As a single father, his days were predictable, exhausting, and painfully repetitive. He worked long shifts at a warehouse on the edge of the city, lifting heavy boxes until his back screamed in protest. Every extra hour meant a little more food on the table, a little more security for his daughter, and maybe, just maybe, a future that looked less uncertain. Coming home early meant losing money. And losing money was a luxury he couldn't afford, but that day was different. Warehouse had shut down unexpectedly due to a system failure, and for the first time in months, Armin found himself walking back home while the sun was still up. His mind wandered, thinking about his daughter Isa, how surprised she would be to see him early, how her eyes would light up, how she would run into his arms. The thought alone kept him going. He climbed the narrow staircase to his apartment, the familiar creak of each step echoing his fatigue. But as he reached his door, something felt wrong. It wasn't open, it wasn't broken, but there was a silence inside that didn't feel right. Armin slowly pushed the door open. The living room looked normal, too normal. The worn-out sofa, the small table, Isa's school bag resting neatly in the corner. Then he heard a sound, a soft movement from the bedroom. His heart began to race. He stepped forward, each step heavier than the last, his breath shallow, his mind already preparing for the worst. And then he opened the door, everything stopped. There, sitting on his bed, was a man dressed in a perfectly tailored suit, his posture calm, his presence powerful. The kind of presence that didn't belong in a place like this. For a few seconds, Armin couldn't speak, couldn't think, couldn't even understand how something like this was possible. But what broke him wasn't the man. It was what came next. Isa stood beside him, his little girl, safe but silent. And then, in a voice so calm it felt unreal, she said something that shattered everything he thought he knew. She said that she had let him in. Armin's chest tightened as confusion turned into fear, then anger, then something deeper, something protective. His entire world revolved around that little girl, and now somehow a stranger had entered that world without his knowledge. But the man didn't move, didn't panic. He simply looked at Armin with eyes that carried something unusual, not arrogance, not guilt, but something closer to understanding. Armin's hands trembled as he stepped forward, placing himself between his daughter and the man. His mind raced with questions, none of which made sense. Why was he here? How did Isa even know him? What did he want? But before Armin could react further, Isa gently held onto his arm, her small fingers wrapped around him, grounding him, calming him in a way only she could. And then she said something that changed everything. She said that the man had helped her. Earlier that day, on her way home from school, she had been followed by two older boys. They hadn't hurt her, but they had scared her badly. She had tried to walk faster, tried to ignore them, but fear had already taken over. And then, out of nowhere, a car had stopped. That man had stepped out. He didn't shout, didn't threaten, just stood there, his presence alone enough to send the boys running. He had walked her home, quietly, respectfully. And when she reached the apartment, she didn't want to be alone, so she asked him to stay. Armin felt his anger crumble into something else, something heavier, guilt. Because while he had been working, trying to